Hey everyone, Amanda Coulong with This Week in Cloud Computing, episode 28, where we're going to be talking about VMworld, but also in studio, the other side of the table, we have Microsoft. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 28 of This Week in Cloud Computing. I am your host, Amanda Coulong, joined via Skype by Dave Linthicum. How are you, my trusty co-host?
I'm doing great. Greetings from the Big Apple.
I know. Dave's now joining us from a hotel room somewhere in the Big Apple.
Downtown New York City.
Looks like they're treating you well there. Nice room.
Yeah. Cockroach just carried my computer away.
I know. I thought I saw a little bit of movement there. And we also have in studio for the very first time someone from Microsoft, and that someone is Lynn Langit, Senior Developer Evangelist at Microsoft. So great to have you here today.
Thanks, Amanda.
Lynn and I go way back. Way back. And I'm just very happy that we have another
talk
woman
about that, were we?
in the room. We'll keep it. We'll keep that mum. So a few quick updates for everybody. The Web TV Prom is September 22nd. Make sure you check that out if you are in Los Angeles and would like to attend. The theme is Enchantment Under the Web. Oh, so sweet. It's at Busby's East, and all proceeds benefit the LA nonprofit Our House. So I'll make sure that I get the ticket link up for you guys. But another great event that we're involved with here at thisweekend.com. And if you want to participate with us here on This Week in Cloud Computing, you can join us in the chat room. And you can also follow us on Twitter. It's at TweeCloudComp, and also use the hashtag TWICC. You can also like us on Facebook, rate our shows, you know, all that good stuff. We've got very, very special sponsors on this show that have been with us since the beginning, and I urge you to please give them a shout out and thank them. It's brought to you by Verticore, that's at Verticore, StormOnDemand, and at NetDNA CDN, all on Twitter. We actually have a special with Verticore right now where they're giving away 5 beta codes for vCloud Express, just for fans of This Week in Cloud Computing. So if you tweet thanks to at Verticore for sponsoring This Week in Cloud Computing, and say you want a beta invite, there's a chance that you could get that. So use the hashtag TWICC and also the hashtag VMworld so they can find those. Winners are going to be picked on September 6th, and we will announce those next week. Without further ado, I know there's a hurricane, happening on the East Coast somewhere, so with hurricanes, we get some...
Shield Maiden!
Yes?
Ragnarok is upon us once again!
Who's that?
Oh, never mind. Just go with it.
Okay.
Storm on demand! Storm on demand! Storm on demand is an infrastructure as a service, cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. A proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and swords like this, and little guys that we do not have in this commercial, but it doesn't matter, because this is cooler. Storm on Demand can be found at StormOnDemand.com, at StormOnDemand. Ragnarok be damned. Storm on Demand. If you do not get Storm on Demand, I will come to your house with my sword and make you get it.
I gave Lynn one of our little men because we love our little Storm on Demand men. We also have an exclusive offer for you with Storm on Demand. If you go to stormondemand.com/TWICC, you can get 1 month, or actually over 1 month, of free hosting. So thank you, Storm on Demand. Make sure you're thanking them too. I believe it's time for some news. So big, everything that's taking over the news this week is VMworld because the conference is going on. So wanted to start off by talking a little bit about some VMworld trends. Hearing a lot of stuff about making applications available from anywhere at any time using any device, which is, something that it's a pie in the sky in the cloud, so to speak, that we've talked about on the show quite a lot. VMworld's had a lot of attendance, 17,000 plus people. So, showing a pretty healthy market for cloud computing. But one piece with this specifically in his keynote I wanted to call out, especially, with you here at the table, and Paul Merritt's declared the death of the operating system. We've heard the death of all sorts of things lately, but now we're hearing the death of the operating system, which is, to be fair, a jab at Microsoft. And in his message, he said that VMware wants to build the next generation of applications that are independent of a general purpose operating system. And, Microsoft, this week has countered with a full page ad in USA Today saying, beware of lock-in with VMware. So I want to start off, with you, Lynn. What are your thoughts on this? Obviously, Microsoft is at the conference.
Right.
And how do you feel about him saying that, though, that the death of the operating system? Is that just...
Well, we're positioning Azure as our cloud-based operating system. So I think there's an alternative to just killing the operating system. But more broadly, what I find in dealing with customers is this just lack of understanding of the different service offering from the vendors, whether it's infrastructure or platform or software as a service, just the fundamental differences in the offering from the vendors. I find myself going over and over and over, and I hear it on your show too.
All the time.
Yeah,
All the time. So everyone's definition is different.
Yeah, and I think that different customers have different needs. And we're obviously targeting the platform as a service and the software as a service, not so much the infrastructure. And rather than going out and killing, everything, there's room for a lot of different offerings for the cloud.
So Microsoft is not violent.
Well, I'm not violent.
Exactly. I see Dave chuckling. What's your take on this one, Dave? Death of the operating system.
What does he expect to run it on? They're proposing an operating system that kills an operating system. So they're saying the death of the operating system. You got to have an operating system, even if it's a virtualized operating system. So it's a silly comment that he made, and I'm really surprised that the press let him get away with that. And maybe I won't. I'll blog about that tomorrow on InfoWorld. But I just don't get those kinds of comments. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Dave, have you heard anything specifically bubbling up out of VMworld that just makes you go, huh?
Well, everything in VMworld is all hybrid cloud all the time. It's about getting people on the private cloud with a glide path to the public cloud, and it's going to be the big push going forward. So, the offerings such as Microsoft has, and the Nebula stuff, and all the other stuff that we've been talking about on this show are going to become even more important as time goes on. So people are looking to get into cloud computing via private clouds, but they want a clear glide path to public.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. There are also a lot of acquisitions happening that are being talked about. I mean, obviously people are announcing those things on purpose around the show, but, again, just to show that we're going to be seeing even more consolidation. Apple, we've got some Apple news. For those who haven't been following this massive data center that they're building, they have a data center in Maiden, North Carolina that is expected to provide the back end for a larger move into cloud computing. So there's a lot of speculation about what they're going to use this for. Is it going to be, a shift on iTunes music and video libraries from, the desktop to online storage? It's $1 billion data center, and it's huge. It's about 500,000 square feet, which is, I think, 5 times the size of Apple's existing facility. And so the reason I bring that up is Apple announced last night that it's going to live stream today's product announcement. And so, I'm wondering, is Apple about to unveil the iData Center? This whole notion of taking, CDN capabilities in-house is a strategy that Microsoft, has employed for a while. But the main difference, too, when you look at data centers, I mean, yes, Microsoft is actually also building another large data center, but the biggest difference here is that Microsoft's Edge Content Network has caching equipment at lots of sites around the world, rather than focusing on one huge data center. So what's your take on this, Lynn? What do you think they're up to? Is this their massive data center for cloud computing? What's Apple doing?
Well, again, I can't really speak for Apple. I can speak for Microsoft, and what I've seen since we've gone to market with Azure is a very rapid expansion in the number of our data centers. Okay. One thing, too, that I think is really interesting that a lot of people don't know around our data centers is we're really focusing on green IT.
I was going to ask you about Generation 4.
Yeah, and it's not an area that I directly work in because I'm a developer evangelist, so I work with tools, but being an employee of Microsoft, I'm peripherally aware. One of the things I think is really interesting, and we have information up on the web on green IT, is we're trying to not only have best practices for Microsoft, we're trying to also share best practices across the industry, which is something I'm actually proud of because there's an ecological impact to all these data centers.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to be a market leader here. So.
And I like the fact, too, that this new data center that's going in Virginia, that's going to add even more jobs to the economy. So there are lots of good feel-good things with this. What do you think they're up to, Dave? Is Apple, finally taking all this stuff inside and, storage for all these iTunes libraries? By the way, I mean, I don't see them streaming iTunes anytime soon. That's just me. But what do you think?
I think this is ITV. So they're building basically a network to wire Apple TV. I think they're going to call it ITV. They're going to wire around the existing cable infrastructure, and they're going to provide a set-top box, and a lot of the Apple fanboys are going to go out and buy it, and they're going to need some kind of a center to stream that content. And this is a center that they're looking to build. But you know what? I like the Microsoft, also the Google approach to the way in which they cache and provide distributed systems, because ultimately it's the best approach to put the content closest to the people who are going to consume it. And I think Apple may be missing the boat with this.
Yeah. Really good point. Let's move along. We've got big news. I just love this story. It just makes me laugh. HP and Dell are in this crazy bidding war over 3PAR. Now, if you don't know who 3PAR is, it's a utility storage company. And Dell started an opening bid for 3PAR at $1.15 billion. HP then countered. It went back and forth. And then before you knew it, the amount that they were bidding for was actually 3 times what the stock market had actually valued 3PAR at. So what I want to know is what's so great about 3PAR? Why did these two tech giants think that it's worth 3 times more than the stock market thought it was? Is this a sign that we're going to see a growing trend in cloud storage? And is their judgment clouded? I had to say it. Dave?
Oh, my God. I love the thing, what's so great about 3PAR? Well, 3PAR basically is a virtualized storage community with a technology that's able to do virtualized storage in a meaningful, good approach to how it deals with storage technology. So let's put it that way. So it's great cloud storage, and ultimately, the folks who are looking to buy it are looking to employ it in that way. So you have only a few technologies out there and technology companies that have great cloud computing components, 3PAR being one of them, and you're going to have all of the giants after them right now. And I think 3PAR is just the first instance of that. We're going to see this as a trend throughout 2011, so strap in and be ready for acquisition year.
Like I said, VMworld, same thing, lots of acquisitions. What do you think about this one too, Lynn? I mean, the other thing that I wanted to throw out there, though, is 3PAR, I mean, they're well known, but they posted 4 straight years of operating and net losses, too. So, the fact that HP and Dell are chasing this one company and, the price just keeps, I don't know, silly. What do you think?
Well, again, I can't really speak for different vendors, but I can give you my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just logical when cloud computing is, emerging, that you're going to have all this acquisition activity occurring.
Right.
I don't know 3PAR myself, so I'm not super familiar, but it's just it's a natural thing. I mean, we've seen it around different aspects of computing in general, and cloud is in the front right now, so cloud is the hot, and cloud, it's going to be just like he was saying, it's going to be very fast and lots of acquisitions. So, just be aware.
Sit back and watch it happen.
That's right. That's right.
This next story I'm very excited about just because I use this. Salesforce finished its Jigsaw integration. So for those of you who don't know, Jigsaw is a crowdsourced business contact database that I've played around with a lot, actually. And I like the fact that it grabs contact information from all sorts of different social networking sites and things like that. And the database itself has more than 22 million business contacts in it right now and 4 million company profiles. So those are updated constantly by the community. So about 1.4 million people are constantly updating those. So now Salesforce has finished the integration, and with that, Jigsaw can now make real-time updates to contact and company information through Salesforce Chatter. So I personally, like for someone who works in marketing, I also do marketing for our network, that to me is extremely valuable. And it's $29 a month, but that's in addition to the existing CRM use charges. But a lot going on here with Salesforce. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we've seen with the Force.com platform, but just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, Dave, have you played around with it at all? Have you used Jigsaw?
Yeah, I have used Jigsaw. In fact, I sat on the panel with the guy who was the founder and the CEO of Jigsaw just as he completed the acquisition to Salesforce. And this is going to be a trend you're going to see from Salesforce. They're looking to round out their CRM technology, providing lots of key components that, quite frankly, the on-premise CRM systems can't touch.
Yeah.
And Jigsaw and the ability to get in at business intelligence information around your customers, the ability to do artificial intelligence kind of things out of the cloud, all this stuff is going to be coming from those guys, because at this point, they really saturated the number of features they're able to offer in the CRM space. Now they need to acquire the features from outside vendors, and they're going to be able to do that rapidly.
Mm-hmm. And that's the piece I latch onto a lot with this too, is this whole notion again of business intelligence and the crowdsourced piece of it. And I mean, do you see the same thing, Lynn? I mean,
well, I do, and a lot of people probably don't even know that in Office 2010 we have a social connector for Outlook and for SharePoint. So we've actually got released product around this. It's relatively newly released, and so people aren't aware of it. But we're aware and releasing product in the space too.
Great. We've got Weiss has announced Pocket Cloud for Android, and it lets smartphone users remotely access a virtualized desktop or PC. Just so that you all know, we're not doing App of the Week this week, so I wanted to highlight a few different applications here. And what I like about this is that you can actually access basics, PowerPoint, Word docs, that sort of thing, from your smartphone, and you can connect with a Mac or Microsoft Windows Home, Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows Vista. But what I'm thinking with this too, though, is that everyone's making a big deal about Pocket Cloud, but a lot of mobile phones in Europe already have this capability to remotely access a virtualized desktop. Dave, do you think that this is kind of behind the ball, or is this like just a U.S. thing versus Europe? I mean, I know we're getting into mobile here for a second, but like Nokia, a lot of Nokia devices, you're able to do this anyway.
Yeah, and I've been using TeamViewer for a long time that does basically the same thing, and it's a free product, so I don't see this as any kind of a specialized thing. And also, I really don't see the core technological link to cloud computing. I mean, I hate to use the word cloud washing, so early in the show, but this is clearly one of the things we're right, and calling it Pocket Cloud, I think, is a bit
forced,
disingenuous, forced. I mean, I just don't see this as a valuable cloud computing product. And there's other products out there that do the very same thing.
Yeah, Lynn, from a developer standpoint, are you seeing anyone develop stuff specifically for the mobile cloud, so to speak?
Well, I mean, obviously we're already in market for our developers with Windows 7 phones. Even though the devices really aren't broadly available, we've got our developer tools out and our emulator. Just here in Southern California, we're running developer events, and we're building cloud apps with the developers now. And it's a really big focus area for the Win 7 phone apps.
Okay. Well, Dave, I know that we did not pull up a Dave article this week, so is there something that you would like to discuss based on your InfoWorld posts?
Oh, people are sick about talking about my stuff. But the core thing on InfoWorld was around the movement in hybrid cloud computing, and so that is a huge trend right now. Everybody should keep an eye on it. So it used to be moving into public cloud computing, and that's still there, and that's still growing rapidly. And then suddenly we started talking about private cloud computing. Now it's the ability to provide private cloud computing with a glide path to public. So it's great that you have Lynn in there as a guest this week, and because Microsoft is all over that stuff. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. So that's my contribution for this week.
Oh, love it. Do you have anything to add to what he was just saying, since Microsoft is?
Well, we're making announcements slowly around it. Ballmer is the lead on this, obviously. And as our major shows are, coming to pass, we're just getting more and more detail out. It's clearly something our customers want. And it's clearly a focus. So, the best way to follow our progress is just to follow our major shows, because that's where we're going to have our announcements.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into a discussion with Lynn here in a minute, but until then, we have a musical interlude.
Outhost and provider letting you down. Take a look at managed private clouds from Verticore. They can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. or the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and software. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. Configure and deploy resources in minutes. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center. It uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Thank you. Thank you very much.
At Verticore on Twitter. Thank them, thank them, thank them. And don't forget, we have 5 beta codes for vCloud Express to give just to our fans. So make sure you tweet thanks to @Verticore, VIRTACORE, for sponsoring TWICC and use hashtag VMworld. So those will announce next week. So let's get into a discussion with Ms. Lynn Langit. So what exactly is a senior developer evangelist at Microsoft? I know, but I want everyone else to know.
Yeah. I've been around for about 4 years, and what I do is I support the developer community in Southern California, specifically by speaking at live events and by getting money for people who want to work with developers.
Money's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So for, you know, code camps and bar camps and stuff like that. And I work with both the Microsoft and the non-Microsoft developer communities, which is probably going to be a little bit surprising. Like I go to Java user groups and PHP user groups so that I can have an awareness of what it's like to be a developer. So that's a big part of it. I also produce content. I'm a published technical author. I've written courseware. I do, you know, talks around product launches. So it's a balance of supporting the community and explaining our products to developers.
Right. I mean, you and I were talking before the show started. You've been to how many user groups so far this year?
Well, there are like over 45 user groups in Southern California, and just the last 3 months of summer, I called it Summer of User Group. I've gone to more than 20 personally. Wow. Yeah, you know, normal people watch TV, you know, during the week, and you know, you relax. It's like, honey, let's go to a user group. That sounds fun. So, yeah.
Gotcha. I want to start off with Steve Ballmer's big quote about being all in for cloud computing. When he said that, what was your reaction?
Well, you know, being a Microsoft employee, that's not a surprise to hear anything Ballmer is going to say. We've had a huge focus on cloud computing, particularly in my group, because we are responsible for educating the developer community on stuff that's coming out. So I've been actually working in cloud for like 1.5 years.
Okay.
So what that really translates to, I think, for people watching is it's a huge focus across Microsoft. There's a lot more resources being added. I mean, just very specifically in Southern California, we added 5 positions.
Wow.
Yeah, to our local team. So we're just throwing all kinds of resources at it so that we can help our customers.
And, you know, we've got this week with VMworld again, you know, they're talking virtualization, and Microsoft is coming back and saying, you know, a few other things about that in terms of, you know, the cloud being, and also Azure being like the next step in efficiency. Do you agree with that company statement?
Well, you know, what we've done is we've taken all the things that we know based on our products, and we've put them in, and I can speak specifically to the area that I have the most expertise, which is the database.
Yep.
And we've created the most optimized kind of environment. So you have basically, whether it's the operating system, whether it's a database, whether it's what we call the app fabric, which is a way of routing. We've taken our best sort of understanding of how to optimize these things, and we've put that into our data centers.
Okay. Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about how Azure is an open platform, you know, because there is the discussion this week again about the potential vendor lock-in.
Right.
You know, Microsoft is saying about VMware.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the open platform. Why was it decided to make Azure open? You know, what's the benefit
because we want more
of it?
business.
Yeah.
That's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to speak specifically to SQL Azure because I think that's probably the easiest thing to understand. You can, for example, have a Java front end.
Yeah.
You don't have to install an SDK or any developer tools. You just change your connection string and connect to SQL Azure in the cloud as if it were, you know, a local database.
Right.
So, I mean, that's probably the most concrete, simplest example of non-lock-in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to highlight maybe a few applications, you know, a few applications of Azure. You know, Outback Steakhouse is using Azure right now, but you and I were talking off camera about a really fun thing here that I would love to pull up. Are you okay with this?
Yeah,
All right.
it's all good. It's all
What's
good.
it called?
Well, what this is related to is, in addition to my work as a developer evangelist, I have a passion around bringing kids into the world of programming because in the U.S. we're really not doing a good job. In particular, women, because they're not women programmers. So everything that I make for kids has got it's either gender neutral or it's specifically designed for girls. So one course that we have for a group of what we call DigiGirls is a course.
We love DigiGirls, by the way.
It's a
Have to plug DigiGirls.
Yeah, it's a Microsoft initiative to get girls into programming. Is to get girls inspired to want to program SQL Server. Well, of course, we have SQL Azure now.
Yeah.
So why not use a cloud-based application? So what are teenage girls interested in querying, learning about? What do you think? What do you think?
Bubblegum, hair, boys.
Hot boys. So we put a database up on the SQL Azure cloud called the Dating Game. And what we do is we use the English, like find a boy with red hair who's more than 6 feet tall, to motivate the girls to say, select star from boyfriends where hair color equals red. Now, one of the sort of fun things about this is that we're now using a new web client, which you've got pulled up on your Mac.
Yeah, can we pull that up on screen, guys?
Okay, what this is this is a CTP or a beta, and this is the Houston client. This is a Silverlight client, and this is running on Amanda's Mac because it's Silverlight. And it's a lightweight administrative tool. And I think it's kind of interesting because it's a fun story for the application. But also it's interesting because one of the differentiators for our cloud offering is our tooling. And not only can you run from just your regular SQL management tools connecting to the cloud, we've got some new and innovative tooling coming where you have a zero install. You're just running from the web.
Well, let's just peek. I'm going to peek through here a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to check out the hot boys?
Shh, don't tell anybody.
Amanda.
Now, how hard is it, you know, for them to do this? How long does it take? What's the learning curve?
What we found is that in a 1-hour class, we can get through the basics of a T-SQL class that I used to teach adults in 8 hours. They're that motivated.
Really?
Yeah, we get all the way up to joins. We do multiple selects. We do ands and ors, and they end the class begging us to do more, which is hilarious to get a group of teenage girls saying, "Can I please write more SQL queries?"
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, and I mean, to just see that comparison and understand how easy it is.
Yeah. Well, plus it's kind of interesting use of cloud computing because we've had so many requests for this all over the world, and you know, it's kind of a really goofy cloud app in a way, but we've got the app on the cloud. We've got this front end tool. It's a zero install. Anybody in the world, we can just send them our script and they can teach it.
Wow.
So.
Wow, I like that. So Azure's an application-centric platform. So talk about that a little bit because some of the people that watch This Week in Cloud Computing are very new to the cloud. What does that mean?
Well, again, you know, we're coming from behind in the world of cloud. So our sort of biggest competitors are offering infrastructure. And the simplest way I explain that to customers is it's more of like an IT pro type offering, like you have the hardware and you have the operating system and you just throw on your VMs or whatever you want to do. Whereas in our case, we have a platform. So we have the developer tools. So you can take your web app and you wrote your web app in Visual Studio, and rather than deploying it just to a regular ISP, you can deploy it to the cloud just by saying right-click Deploy Azure Project. Which is, you know, I mean, that's our big value prop because that just is not there. That's from the compute side. Now, from the SQL, the database side, what we're moving towards is full compatibility with our on-prem database. Because you probably know the history. We started out more like the competition with, you know, the simpler data storage, and our customers said, no, 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 we want relational, we want indexing, we want joins, we want the tuning, we want these types of control that we've had on-prem, and it differentiates us.
Yeah.
You know, if you add the tooling with the sort of best of the on-prem, we've got something that's different.
Yeah. Microsoft's also been noted to say that this could be a game changer in terms of a development platform. So, you know, can you elaborate a little bit more? I mean, you sort of covered that just now, but why would it be a game changer?
Well, you know, I work with developers, and one of the things that I would say is go and try and develop an app using the different vendors' applications, and you tell me which experience has least pain.
Fair.
And this is not a blue badge talking, this is a developer talking. Because, you know, you open up our Visual Studio, you have templates, right-click deploy, it's faster. You know, I don't want to work hard. Do you want to work hard?
No.
Aren't we
I do, but. So a lot of this is self-service.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And we've covered before on the show that there is an Azure Platform Appliance coming this fall. Why the Appliance? And it's also a limited production release. So is there a reason, like strategically, is there a reason why Microsoft decided to play around with an appliance?
Well, you know, around the cloud computing platform, we are really listening to our customers. You know, and I'll go back to the SQL Azure story to show, because we completely changed course, rip and replace in January, and then we went to production in October of that same year with a complete new model. So we're paying attention to our customers, and we're trying to give them the choice that they want within the platform as a service.
Right.
We're not going to be in the infrastructure world, as far as I know. Things do change, but we're moving heavily in platform and software as a service, and we want to have a lot of choice for our customers within those areas.
Okay. Well, I know I keep monopolizing you, and I know that Dave is sitting here patiently.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Dave, I know you're dying to ask Lynn Langit some questions.
Yeah, I think the the big question I have is, people don't realize that Microsoft has been in the cloud for a longer period of time than a lot of the cloud providers out there. I mean, I was talking to them about their cloud offering, their emerging cloud offering, back in the 2005, 2006 timeframe. So, what steps is Microsoft doing to take a leadership position going forward, when really you guys were the kind of the pioneers there? Just a lot of people don't realize that because of the amount of hyperbole that kind of followed on after that.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing this year is the implementation of Steve's all-in message, which is whether it's required training for all Microsoft employees, and I mean all Microsoft employees, so every single person in the 80,000 person company can explain to anyone who happens to ask us what is cloud computing, to putting a tremendously increased amount of resources out in the field for customers who want to go to market with this stuff, whether it's more developer-focused events, whether it's support for customers. We're just coming out really strongly showing what we've got to offer.
So beyond the existing kind of .NET installation base, do you guys see penetration beyond that, and are you planning for penetration beyond that? Because to your point you made earlier, you guys are a lot more open again than that people give you credit for. So how can we understand that and get into use cases and get people to understand the architecture of the platform, the openness of the platform, and how people can take advantage of it? Because to your point you made earlier, you can take advantage of Azure from any number of different kinds of clients. It doesn't necessarily dictate that you're in on the Microsoft stuff all the time. That isn't well known out there. So how do we start spreading the word?
Well, that's actually a big part of my job. That's a part of an evangelist job. So for example, when I'm planning my time, I'm going to spend time with Microsoft developers, but I also spoke at some of the open Cloud Camp events. I was a keynote speaker at Silicon Valley Cloud Camp and spoke several sessions on SQL Azure, which were overflow, and that was a pretty much 95% non-Microsoft community. It's one of the reasons that I'm spending more time going to the PHP user groups, the Java user groups, so that I can have a better understanding of what non-Microsoft developers are needing.
Okay.
Great. What about the ability to kind of get into a lot of the other government deals that are going on right now? I see Azure in there, but basically as an afterthought. Everything's Google, everything's Amazon, and moving in those directions. You guys are standing up a new data center in Virginia. Is that going to be compliant with the existing security standards that the government's putting forward? I assume that's why it's being built. And how are you guys going to push that forward into the government currently?
Well, we have a whole sector of outward-facing field representatives that just deal with government, and those folks are receiving the same level of intense training and preparation that my team is receiving. In terms of compliance, again, I'll give you a specific example. One of the areas where we did not immediately open data centers was Europe, because there's some very specific requirements around where personal data can be stored in Europe that are more stringent. So we've taken a conservative approach around compliance. In other words, making sure that we are completely compliant before we move forward. It is a very, very strong focus area throughout the company, whether it's around HIPAA, SOX, all that stuff, or whether it's around geographical specific standards.
Awesome. So going forward, you guys have the government angle, you have the openness angle, you're rolling stuff out in the cloud. You're in the cloud probably before a lot of the other folks are in the cloud going forward, and it's going to be an all-in kind of a market penetration for you. Is it truly that way in Microsoft? Is everybody behind this as a core strategic growth area for Microsoft going forward?
I've got a one-word answer to that. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
So in all of your travels, in meeting with all of these different non-Microsoft developers, what are some of the things, what are some of the questions that you get, and what are some of the surprises even, where they have their aha moments perhaps?
Well, I think it's really fun, again, to go to the openness. I've been, for the first time this past year or so, I've been working with Java and Eclipse, and there's an add-in for SQL Azure. So in a couple of my Microsoft presentations, just for fun, I opened not with Visual Studio, but with Eclipse.
Right.
And that was pretty interesting for both the Microsoft and non-Microsoft developers. It just was a very unexpected thing to see a Microsoft evangelist coding up a Java app and connecting to SQL Azure in the cloud. Yeah. So I try to be knowledgeable about what the needs are of those communities. I also have been working with the competitor tools. I have used all the competitor cloud situations, and so I have intimate understanding of what it is like to set up their stuff, because I've done it. And again, that gives me a lot of credibility and a lot of great information for developers that are wanting to make those choices, because I can say, this is my experience with the competitor, this is what we have to offer, and here's some specifics around that.
Yeah. What would you say, if you could only choose one thing, what is your biggest strength with Azure?
Well, I'm biased because I am an author around SQL Server Business Intelligence. I've published 2 books, and I have a great love of our product around business intelligence. And we've announced that we're moving our BI capability into SQL Azure, first starting with SQL reporting services. So I think that one of our key competitive advantages is that we're going to not only have relational available in a very open way, but we're going to put the best of our BI. Which is just really exciting stuff, because BI is so needed, and it's really becoming more accessible now because the costs are coming down. And we're going to have it available not only on-prem but also in cloud.
Yeah.
So
exciting. Yeah. Now, on a personal note, there's a reason why we needed you in studio now, because you're about to head off on some more travels, are you not?
Yeah.
Where are you going and why?
Yeah, I have been, well, this is fun. I'll show this. This is copper from Zambia. Can you see it there? Yeah, it's there, as you can see it. I have been volunteering personally, this is not a Microsoft thing, for an electronic medical records project in Zambia for 5 years. I've been doing technical training. It's called Smart Care, and it's based on a smart card, because there's no network infrastructure, and it's to combat the health crisis in Zambia. So this year I'm combining that with speaking at Microsoft's Tech Ed Africa, hoping to keynote again. Yay. Keynoted last year, yeah. So I'll be working 3 weeks in Zambia with the dev team, helping them with implementation of business intelligence around the national health records of Zambia, which is just, I can't think of a more exciting use of business intelligence. The application now has been ported. It's being tested in Ethiopia and South Africa, and I'm working with a team to help to refactor the application, clean it up so that it can be made available as open source, really for the world.
Yeah. So we'll have to keep in touch while you're there. Yeah. Get on Skype if we can, and have you talk with our This Week in Cause team. That shows on Mondays.
I would love to do that.
So that would be excellent. Any final thoughts from your side, Dave?
No, it's great having her in studio, and what a great cause to go out and really help people and solve that problem. So that's fantastic. Now, I'd like to hear more from Microsoft going forward. And number one, you're one of the major cloud providers that's come on this show. And thank you very much for that.
Well, we are very, very lucky to have Ms. Lynn Langit in studio with us.
Thanks, Amanda.
Senior Developer Evangelist at Microsoft, for those of you who are just joining. Well, with that, I think I just heard a clap of thunder in the studio.
Shield Maiden!
Yes?
Ragnarok is upon us once again!
What's that?
Oh, never mind. Just go with it.
Okay.
Storm! Storm on demand! Storm on demand! Storm on demand is an infrastructure as a service, cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. A proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and swords like this, and little guys that we do not have in this commercial, but that doesn't matter, because this is cooler. Storm on Demand can be found at StormOnDemand.com, at StormOnDemand. Ragnarok be damned. Storm on Demand. If you do not get Storm on Demand, I will come to your house with my sword and make you get it.
Little guys like this, and he will come to your house with that sword if you do not get Storm on Demand. So, if you want to have over 1 month of free hosting, go to stormondemand.com/TWICC. So I would like to yet again thank our in-studio guest, Lynn Ling. Where'd Ling come from? I don't know, Lynn Langit.
Just go slow.
Very, very slowly. Lynn Langit, that is at, what's your Twitter handle?
L Langit.
L Langit.
Like dang it.
Like dang it, but L Langit.
That's right.
There we go.
That's right.
Senior Developer Evangelist at Microsoft. And of course, my trusty co-host, Dave Linthicum, thank you for joining us from the Big Apple today in your hotel room.
Happy to do it. Looking forward to the next show. And thank you very much. And don't forget to Twitter me at Dave Linthicum.
There you go. And of course, thank our amazing, amazing sponsors at Verticore, at StormOnDemand, and at NetDNA CDN on Twitter. Do not forget, if you're thanking them, you may just get freebies. So if you've got ideas for the show, send them to Amanda@thisweekend.com or pitch@thisweekend.com. And we will always get back to you. If you've got conference codes, that sort of thing, always send them our way. But be sure to join us again next week, same cloud time, same cloud channel. I'm your host, Amanda Coulong. Thank you for watching.